All right, everybody. Welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter. I am joined by a very special guest tonight. He is Matt Brooks of the Denver Nuggets, at Matt Brooks NBA. Thank you so much for hopping on, man, and thanks for gracing us with the time. It's nice to have you on finally.
It's good to be on. It's a big day. Not just because the Nuggets are having their ring ceremony and everything like that. This is my Pickaxe and Roll debut, so big day for sure.
Big day for the Matt Brooksy, man. No, I appreciate you. I should I tell the story of my first impression of you on this podcast or no?
Yes, it's gold.
Now I have to. So when Matt first came over from the Brooklyn Nets, the only impressions that I really had of him were from his Twitter profile, which I thought, like, hey, you're a Brooklyn guy. You're always wearing suits. You're a person who, like, trying to keep it as professional, like the New York Minute as possible. And I just thought he was a raging asshole. That's the impression that I had of Matt Brooks at the beginning of our relationship together.
Fair.
And no, it's not fair at all. Actually, that's the funny part about it, because you're clearly not that. We met. And I still remember who I was talking to on the first day that we met, but I was like, damn, Matt's a nice guy. That was not what I was expecting. It's crazy.
Well, I think I walked in I think I was in all black and like a trench coat, and like
Right.
I'm not wearing them right now, but I have these rings which I should stop wearing because I'm 29.
That's not true. You can wear whatever the hell you want. That's
true.
That's
You're
not
right.
the thing.
Let me
Like, I
be
mean,
me.
but it was funny. It was like, hey, this is a spitting image of what I had, and then he was just like a nice
Yeah.
dude.
No, appreciate that. Yeah, it was funny. I definitely came in and looked pretty Brooklyn, and I realized right away I was like, "Wow, this is not showing up to like a Nets presser." And I was like, "I look a little alternative right now for this group, but that's cool." So yeah,
Alternative is a great way to put
it
it.
was definitely big alt look for me.
Oh my gosh. No, we love it here. We enjoyed it and we had a good time with it for sure. But everybody make sure to go follow Matt at Matt Brooks NBA. He is a great follow on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And it is a nice thing to be able to see how and have somebody that does like stats breakdowns and video breakdowns on the actual website. So go check out his work on nuggets.com as well, because he puts together these film studies, which you took from obviously your previous work and then had a great time doing, but it has elevated the coverage in the space. So thank you for doing what you do, dude.
Damn, that's nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good transition. I feel like what I like to do is a lot of the film stat stuff, and it's been well received. So I'm happy about that. And it's cool. It's the great thing about the Nuggets beat is we have so many talented people. So I think that really pushes me. Just seeing the different work that everybody's doing. There's so many people with different skills too. It makes you kind of want to grow your skill set outside of like what you do well, I guess. So it's cool. And one of those. Like, dude, I've been literally leaning on your rotation grass. I've been leaning on those like here. Like I need them to breathe. So
It's awesome. I'm trying to monetize those things. Like that's
you should.
at this point, like people would pay. People would definitely pay
I
for
will
it.
pay.
Well, I appreciate it, man. No, it's a good look. So immediately now that I have you here, I'm gonna put your feet to the fire. Eddie Sell in the comments, he says, Ryan, those new jerseys are not good at all, except more for finally getting the ship. Do you have an official comment, Matt Brooks, on the jersey leaks?
Those are rumored. I can't comment on those. That's it. Those are rumored. I physically can't comment on those. So.
Oh my god, I'm turning this new camera filter, which automatically doing me dirty. You see how red I am in this camera?
Yeah.
Good God, like this is a new webcam, new setup, trying new things. So okay, I promise I will not keep putting your feet to the fire on that.
Yeah,
because it is hilarious to watch you squirm a little bit, but no, it's okay. No, we're here to preview Nuggets Lakers. We are here to have a good time and chat about a variety of things. We were at practice today, and this is kind of how this came about. You and I wanting to chat, and like, hey, this was the perfect time to do so because the Nuggets are kicking off the season against these Los Angeles Lakers. It's ring night tomorrow. There's a lot of excitement in the building. I think there's more media in the building for this opening night than I've ever seen for an opening night before, which Not a surprise, obviously, but it was still kind of surprising to be there. Just your general takeaways of as we lead up to the season, how the Nuggets are kind of approaching it.
Yeah, just kind of. I think you tweeted out yesterday, but just their balance. Like I think they understand this is a long journey, and this is something I've been. I think it was, I don't know if you were there at the media session. I've been really asking Coach Malone a lot about how they're balancing contending with developing because right now with the way their roster is, they almost have to. I mean, they don't have to, but if they want to go far,
Better.
they have to. They have to
They
develop
better.
because they have three rookies and two sophomores on the roster, all fighting for rotation spots. So, yeah, I think that the idea coming into this year is they're going to compete. They're going to go for a high seed, but they understand there's going to be bumps along the way, and they just know how long this journey is in a way. So I think there's a sense of balance this go around. And again, I wasn't here at the beginning of last year, so I can't speak on that, but I can just go from what I saw from the playoffs versus this year. So I think that would probably be the first like macro point that I've seen so far through these pressers.
For posterity's sake, last year I think the biggest comparison was we know what we have to do, but it's time to shut up and do it. Like that was really the general vibe. Now they've done it. Now they've done the thing, and how you get back to that place is a very interesting question. Denver's obviously never tried to experience that before, and in the last few seasons, we'll call it last 5 seasons, not a lot of teams have ever experienced that before themselves.
It's
So
hard. It is hard to do.
and then like just shit happens most of the time in these seasons, and the parity is a really big deal in the NBA, and I think that that has really manifested. But for a team like the Nuggets, where they are seemingly pretty well set up for this, I'm not surprised that the message has been and like the thing that I shared yesterday, the Jamal Murray quote. I think that that was pretty salient because it is going to take a little bit. It is not gonna be perfect. They're not gonna be perfect. They're not gonna be playing playoff caliber basketball in October and November. And, like, having that appreciation is important, but also, like, knowing when to criticize and when to not is gonna be really difficult this year because the actual team itself knows what they have to do, but you can't just flip the switch again and again and again. Like there are certain benchmarks that they're going to have to reach this year. And I'm just so curious what those are going to look like and when we're going to see them and whether we're even going to know that they exist or not. Like that's the natural thing about the NBA. Like you sometimes you just don't know what you're seeing before your eyes until you've actually had hindsight.
Yes, I agree.
Not really a question, by the way. I just wanted to share that.
No, I agree. I think that's pretty salient. Yeah, I mean the season's long, and I think that this is like usually when you think of people talking about the season being long, you think of like load management and stuff like that. And it seems like they're I don't know if they're going to load manage, but they definitely want to play their stars less, just from what Malone said. Um, and a big part of that is that you're going to play you in that way. If you're trying to play your stars or main guys less, that means you're going to be playing your bench guys more, which means more minutes for the rotation guys, which means you have more guys kind of developing and probably playing really hard. So I think there's a balance. I get the vision for sure. It's just about like, does that come to fruition? And, do you have those marks where you do need to flip the switch if you're the main guys? So, yeah, I think that's a good point.
We will see how they approach it. Any general takeaways from practice today other than what we shared already?
Yeah, nothing crazy. It was interesting. It was good to hear from Michael Porter Jr. And just kind of hear about how that happened. I think he mentioned it was a grade 3 sprain. So it sounds like it's something that he's gonna play on it, but it'll definitely be sore in certain spots. So I think that's something to like keep an eye on. But they didn't seem overly worried with it. But I definitely thought that was like notable for sure. And then outside of that, I don't know. There wasn't a ton else. I think there were certain questions about a lot of questions for Zeke, obviously, who spoke today. But other than that, I think we're kind of just settling in and getting ready for the year.
That new contract was officially announced, so you're allowed to talk about
I
it.
can talk about that.
You can talk about that one. No, it's going to be good, and I think I spoke about this on last night's show or this morning's show if you're listening on YouTube. Um, that is a I thought that that was a good deal for both
Mhm.
sides. I didn't see really a ton of drawbacks for either side for committing to that because the upside with Zeke is higher than 4 years, 32 million.
Hmm.
But for Zeke, he hasn't really played a ton, and locking in some cash and getting a player option on the end of that feels like a good thing. It feels like a good opportunity for him. Hey, now you're set for life because you have this contract, and then we'll see whether he can continue to build on it. But that was nice to see. Michael Porter, obviously, they made him available, so he's going to play, and Michael Malone confirmed as much that Christian Brown, Michael Porter Jr., they'll be healthy. And we'll I guess next segment we get to talk about the Nuggets and the Lakers and what that's going to look like. So I'm excited to hear your perspective on what you think the rotation is going to be and things like that, but also
Oh
how
man.
this team's going to approach ring night. It's going to be good. But tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to chat about Nuggets Lakers and we'll have a good time with it. But first, everybody, this podcast, as you know, is brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Why in the world would you bet with the big boys this football season when you have the opportunity to try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall? Superbook is the book next door. They're just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day while using that promo code Mile High. So make sure to bet with the best and use that promo code Mile High this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. Can you all hear me now? Fantastic.
We're back. We're back.
Just a second. Let me change my settings real quick. Uh, now we get to. Why are you speaking out of there? I'm so confused. Um. Oh God. Gotta love the whole. Try it again. Try speaking again.
You hear me?
Hear you out of my computer. Okay. You know what? Take it off the headset. we're gonna
We're
gonna
going rogue. Let's go.
Good time. Yeah. So, how much of my how much of
Your spiel? Not a syllable. So
a syllable of the ad read?
I heard the ad read. The ad read.
Oh, okay. That's the important thing. That's what
the
pays the
important
bills.
stuff. Lakers, Nuggets. I don't know, but I did get 1-800 gambling problem or whatever.
Good God. Now, okay, so everything is now coming out of the computer for some reason. I don't know why, but we move. We're having a good time. All right. Thank you everybody for being flexible. Ryan is still trying to figure out technology because Ryan's
We're in the preseason.
yeah, I guess.
That's what I keep saying.
You'd think I'd be a veteran at this. I recorded so much for the alley oop in this. Like you'd think that this would be easy, but it's actually really hard.
Oh no, it's tough.
Okay, let's get back to it. So basically what we're gonna talk Nuggets Lakers, like talking Nuggets Lakers for this, and we're gonna have a good time at ring night. That's gonna be a good fun, enjoyable experience for everybody. Even if like whether the Nuggets win or lose, it's gonna be a fun experience. I don't know if the email has officially gone out of when we're supposed to be there, but it is going to be pretty early.
4:45. Well, if you're a fan, you want to be there. I don't know for us. I have no idea. Media, I haven't seen that yet, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll find out. It's going to be, it's going to be, I'm sure Michael Malone will speak at about 3:45 and then
Probably
Darvin Ham will speak at 4 and we're going to have a lot to get through at that point. But these big ring night ceremonies are always interesting where this team, they've got a lot kind of to figure out, and like it's going to be very busy. It's like the opening game of the season is always very weird. I think back to the Gordon Hayward injury
Mhm.
just a few years ago. That's the one that like, and then I also think of the there was one where the Lakers and the Nets and the Warriors played against each other when it was actually you would probably know this
I remember
where
it fondly. Yep.
Kyrie and KD just like demolished the Warriors, and it was
Yeah.
very surprising to see.
Yeah.
Then the Warriors tanked and were the second seed that season, so maybe we should have seen it coming. But
Yeah.
no, it's like weird stuff can happen on this night. So I was wondering if you had any like you remember that night. Do you have any experiences of just like watching the opening game of the year?
I couldn't even who played last year? Like, I should probably know who it was, but I couldn't even tell you.
I think the
Let's
Bucks and
see.
the Sixers played on Thursday. So I
Okay.
think last year it was probably man, it was the Warriors and the Lakers probably. That'd be my
Okay.
guess.
Okay. Yeah, I remembered it. I mean, the ring ceremony is one I always remember. It's kind of similar to like how the finals was, like even just being there for game one, but obviously like the celebration, like you watch it on TV and then you're in the arena and you're like, oh my God, this is in front of me. So I'm gonna have one of those moments with the ring ceremony, which is cool. Those have been really special for me, just because like everybody else, I've watched the NBA since I was a kid, so it's been really cool to be there for those. The games themselves, yeah, you're right. I mean, there are weird games. I honestly wouldn't even have thought of the Nets game if you hadn't brought that up. Like I just, first night of the year is always weird in terms of the basketball. Some teams look really good, some teams don't. Conditioning could kind of be all over the place. So it's, it really like I remember. God, what year was it? I think the one I actually remember. It was like the first game of the Warriors with Durant. They lost to the Spurs, and everybody was.
Mm.
I just remember like that was an all-time overreaction night. Like everybody's like, "Oh my god, this isn't gonna work. It's over." Like to the first game. So that's the one I think of. But other than that, yeah, these games are. I don't know.
You said
They're
that was Warriors
depends.
Spurs?
Warriors Spurs way back 2017, I
Didn't they
believe.
win like 67 games that year?
Yeah, but it was the 2017 Warriors.
Yeah,
You're
I
like,
know, exactly. Like
that's,
so they lost and it was crazy, but like I mean,
yeah, it was like one
I
of their.
can't believe it. That was one of the 15 losses all
Yeah,
year. That's
right,
wild.
right. Yeah, Spurs
People
were good that year too. So it was a good
man,
year.
oh, that was the year that like Kawhi rolled his ankle in the on Zaza Pachulia's foot. Um
Tough series. Yeah,
Tough series
brutal.
for sure. Um yeah, okay. Well, let's get into the actual game aspect of this
Sure.
because yeah, might as well. Like, assuming that everything goes according to plan and the Nuggets start at about 5:30, 5:35, 5:40, um, the Lakers are gonna trot out their starting lineup, which I assume looks like Austin Reeves, good lord, D'Angelo Russell, LeBron James, uh, Rui Hachimura, is he gonna start?
Yeah, because no Jared Bayless or Jared Bayless. Whoa,
Man,
Jared
I
Vanderbilt.
went
Are we
with Austin
okay?
Rivers and you went with Jared Bayless. I think I win.
Jared Bayless is crazy. Jared Vanderbilt, and yeah, he's out, and he's been out. He's been dealing with like this. I think it's a heel thing that he's dealing with. And they've been kind of. It seems like it's kind of murky on like what his status is and what he's going to return. So I
Sure.
wonder if they go. I wonder if they go Rui, or it could be Torian Prince, who's played very well for them in the preseason.
Actually, it's probably gonna be Torian Prince, if I had to
Good
be
player.
honest. That's the guy that they're talking up in training camp and in the preseason and things like that. And Rui, I think they like the idea of having him come off the bench, but I'm not a big fan of the Rui Christian Wood pairing that they've started playing around with. Like
Yeah.
that seems pretty shaky to me especially from a defensive perspective. Um, what's your impression of this Lakers team? Just like they made the changes that they did. Obviously, they won't have Vanderbilt available, but assuming that they have everybody else, just like how challenging is that matchup going to realistically be?
I think it'll be challenging because they're going to play hard, and they are clearly fired up about this game.
What
Um, Clearly, very
you've
fired up.
heard something about that?
Yeah,
Man,
we had the LeBron like, "Oh, I'm saving this for a different day." That was a good quote.
mm,
Yeah, it's kind of this is going to be a pretty intense. This is actually going to be really one of the more intense opening night games. I think these teams are going to play really hard. I'm excited for that. Long term, the Lakers, I don't know. They're kind of a hard team for me to evaluate. But this game with everybody healthy, LeBron fresh after an offseason, Davis fresh, um, they're going to look really good. I mean, I think we saw it with them last year in the playoffs. Like they're a really, really, really tough team to play, and they have an identity. Um, and the biggest thing for them, I think, was just the very end. There was just attrition. Seemed like at the end of every game, they sort of ran out of gas. But first game of the year, yes, there's altitude. That's going to be a factor. They're going to play pretty hard. And they're going to be fresh. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really hard game.
Yeah, it should be fascinating to see how both teams approach this, and if it's going to be one of those very intense games like you're talking about, and does that make it a little bit more like turnover prone? Do people make mistakes? Is there a lot of fouls and free throws and things like that? Like there's a lot of like logistical things there, but I do think the motivation is going to be there on the Lakers side. That's for certain. For the Nuggets, I think the motivation will be there, but it's also going to be a little bit different, and it's just a different feeling when you receive a ring and then you have to go play.
Yeah.
I Jamal talked about it like while he was out there, and then I think at the media session yesterday, I want to say just about how like once the ball goes up, like it doesn't matter, like he's going to play, and like he almost sounded like he didn't even want to accept the ring, but like I don't think that that's actually the case. Like he should enjoy it. Everybody should try to enjoy this moment. But for the Nuggets, it's going to be hard to turn the page. Probably harder than the Lakers to turn the page, where they've been seething all summer, and then the Nuggets have been celebrating all summer. So like for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, it's going to be a very interesting battle between those two, and whether Denver can match the energy that the Lakers put out there will be fascinating. Um, what do you think Mike's going to look like and Christian's going to look like in their returns?
No clue. Honestly, like I wouldn't. I don't think my expectations are high. Not because I don't think they're like they had good off seasons or anything. Like it's just like kind of hard to come back and play a full go game after you miss 2 weeks of basketball, especially like your first bit of NBA basketball. Um, so yeah, I think my expectations are tempered. I'm really curious for both guys though because they both kind of had the same off season in terms of like they both worked on their ball handling and like what does that look like? It's not going to be like Mike and Christian Brown running 25 pick and rolls in the game. Like they're not just going to completely change their offense. But what does that look like? Ball gets swung to them on the second side. What are they able to do in those situations? Are they pushing the ball up more in transition? That's something that's been stressed for Christian. I'm curious to see what that looks like for Mike. Where's Mike's how's the ankle really is probably the other thing I'm definitely watching for. How does that affect him as a shooter coming off pin downs and just relocating and what type of things are they able to do with him? So those would be the two guys I'm really keeping an eye on. Just from I'm interested in what this next year looks like for them, but also just like where they at kind of fitness wise, I guess.
Yeah, that's fitness wise. I think Christian will probably be okay. He's also probably not going to be asked to play 30 minutes or anything like
Yeah,
that. It's going to be 20 to 25, and that'll be in 10-minute stints or 10 to 12-minute stints, basically off the bench. First guy
you're
off
the
the bench,
master
that'll
of
be
this.
the expectation, and then maybe he just kind of shares Mike's minutes. Maybe Mike plays 24 and Christian plays 24. It wouldn't surprise me if they just decided, hey, if I'm the rotation guy, then like you get the 24 minutes of small forward on the ends, and then Christian gets the 24 minutes of small forward in the middle. Like that would be probably a reasonably way to approach it at the 6 minute mark of every quarter. Um, I think that Reggie Jackson will play.
Hmm.
I think that Christian Brown will play. I think that Zeke Naji will play. I don't know who else is going to play beyond that. You could tell me that Justin Holiday plays. You could tell me that Zeke Naji surprisingly played the 4 and DeAndre's playing the 5. Like that would shock a lot of people, but it wouldn't shock me. I think that they could do a variety of different things, trying to match up with the Lakers' size and athleticism and the things that they can do as skill position players. You think Julian Strawther's going to play?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see like, do they try to match the Lakers? Or are they just kind of like we're trying to figure out our rotation? Because that's been something like Malone's really stressed is we need to figure out what our bench looks like. So does that start night one? Like, are you just like whatever? We don't. I mean, you don't want to like just not plan for the other team's lineups, obviously. But are you being like, all right, let's throw in Julian for 5 minutes and just see how he fares? Let's see what Justin looks like at the three. And like I'm I think their bench, the general thing is just it trends a little smaller. Um, because you're looking at like Peyton, Christian, Julian, and Justin. Like those are good size wings, but you don't have any like really bulky frontline guys. So I think in a sense, you're just going to see a lot of different guys thrown in for different stints. I wonder if Justin Holiday is like a pretty early sub. That seems like I wouldn't be shocked at that at all if he's one of the first three guys off the bench. Him, Christian, and Reggie. Personally, they just seem to really like how he plays.
One of the other things, and I've talked about this on the show before, the Lakers like to stagger LeBron with the second unit. That's one of the things that they do. They'll play AD most of the first and third quarters, and then they'll play LeBron at the beginning of the second, beginning of the fourth. It wouldn't surprise me if the Nuggets just matched Aaron Gordon's minutes
Yeah,
with
yeah,
LeBron and said, "Hey, this is how we're going to approach this for this game, and we'll start you, and we'll take Aaron out early. We'll move Mike to the four, and he'll match up with I don't know Rui or somebody like that,
yeah.
Torian Prince, and that will be it's just a reasonable thing to try. That you have Aaron Gordon and Zeke Naji in the front court, and that they've done that before. They did that. I remember one time them doing that against Jason Tatum specifically with matching up against the Boston Celtics. It was the one time during the year that I can remember them actually changing up that rotation and staggering AG for on the second unit on purpose. Like sometimes you get foul trouble and you just have to do something like that. But most of the time,
Hmm,
this was clearly something like they matched up against the big wing. Maybe
hmm.
this is the way to do it because I don't know who on Denver's second unit guards LeBron James.
Yeah, I don't mean like throwing P-Watt. That's a big ask. Like,
And
that's a big
it could
ask.
be Piwat, but
I
if
mean
it's
Zeke.
Christian or Justin or Julian Strother, those guys are just too small.
Yeah, I honestly think Zeke would like. That sounds wild, but like I think size wise, you could. I'd almost feel better about doing that than throwing like one of your or freshman sophomore players at him. I
You
don't know.
like my
Yeah,
idea of Zeke as the 4 and DJ as the 5?
you could. I mean, yeah, I really would not be surprised if this is a deep bench game, especially because it is the first game of the year. Um, I think they want to ease their guys back. At least that's just what they've said. Uh, so I could see it, and it's also the beginning of the year. I feel like that's a little more common for teams,
How do you think Jokic and Jamal kind of approach this one?
like they did in the conference finals.
Yeah.
I mean, like truly, like there's the Lakers didn't have an answer for either guy. They definitely didn't have one for Jamal. I don't know why that would change. And I
That
mean,
is one thing that in all the additions that the Lakers made on the fringes, they did a good job of bolstering their rotation, especially during the regular season. It's one of the
yeah,
reasons I have them picked to be the 3 seed in the West this year. I think they'll be a
you're
top 3
high on
seed,
them.
pretty high. But I don't think that they changed anything about their playoff outlook at
No,
all.
I don't think their roster is all that different. I mean, like it's different in terms of like the names and the styles they're going to play, but like how they match up with Denver is like largely the same, like
Yeah.
pretty much. Like Gabe Vincent in for Dennis Schroeder is like they're different players, but they're smaller than Jamal. And I don't know. I didn't look at this like I did a preview for the website, and I was like, God, this is pretty much the same matchup. Like I'm kind of writing the same thing I wrote for the actual series preview. So yeah, it is interesting like that.
How do you see it going? Do you think Denver takes it in this one? I know you might be a little biased on this front, but aren't we all if we're being honest?
I don't know. I would not be shocked if they don't win. And I just say that because I think like the Lakers are going to play so hard. Um, and I don't know, for some reason I think that's like something that I'm definitely mindful of. But I think it's going to be a really good game. That's all I know. Like for me, I'm coming into this and I'm like, it's going to be so nice to be back and like the first game be such an intense regular season game, not just because of it being the first game and opening night, but just like the history between these two teams. It's pretty rare that we get a matchup where there's this much like back and forth, just in terms of A, history, but B, like comments made and stuff like that. It's pretty rare. It kind of brings me back to like 70s, 80s type basketball.
It's fun. It's I think it's more enjoyable for the fans if this is actually like a rivalry thing. If this
Yeah.
is these are two teams that can go back and forth and say, "Hey, we own you," or you on us," and like we're gonna take it on the chin, or if it's in the playoffs, then these teams take it super personally. Like I think that that's one thing about this that I think the Nuggets do take it personally still. Whether I mean you've seen KCP's comments, like that's
Yeah.
one guy that like he
Yeah.
kind of out there in terms of
Yeah.
sharing the inside feelings of how this actually is going. So I think the Nuggets know what they're in for, and I think that the starters will be ready. I do think
Me
this
too.
game will be lost with the bench. I think that this game will. I have not heard a lot of confidence coming from that second unit, and if they try to go into this with a 10-man rotation or even a 9-man rotation where Jamal is staggering, like you're probably going Jamal, Reggie, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji. That would be or maybe it's Justin Holiday, Zeke Naji, and then you're so small, and it just might not be good. It very well may not work with Reggie and Jamal together. So I'm curious as to how it's going to go, but we'll find out, man. It's gonna be very interesting to watch. It's gonna be very interesting to monitor. Do you have a bold prediction for tomorrow's game?
Woo, bold prediction. Bold prediction. Bold prediction. Goodness. Oh, I don't want to. Oh, I don't know. You put me on the spot right now.
Sorry,
Bold
sorry.
prediction. Bold prediction.
Give
Let's
me a
see.
point total or a score total or something like that.
This is tough for me too. I think it's actually going to be pretty low scoring. That's
Hmm.
my prediction. I think altitude will be a factor for the Lakers, um, and I just think it's going to be like the first half is going to be. My prediction is going to be a little rockier. So, bold takes. Now, I got to give you something, huh? Don't I? Let's see here. Come back to me. What do you have a bold take? I'm going to come up with one right now.
Nikola Jokic goes for 40, 15, and 15.
I got one. Nikola hit 6 threes, 5 threes, 4 threes, 5 threes. Six feels crazy.
Yeah, that's almost like more surprising. Like
I should like look up his basketball reference to see like what he's made in the game. He's just chucking them. He's just chucking
just
them.
jacking them up, man.
I
It's
love it.
amazing to watch.
It's great.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
No, like I think that's gonna be interesting. It'll be fun to monitor. But like I think the Joker 40, 15, and 15 is definitely on the table, especially like they're gonna play him. Like they're gonna play him a lot of minutes because I don't think the bench is gonna work out very well. And if you've got like 36 minutes of Nicola, then it's not gonna be that hard to do. Like they're gonna funnel everything through him, and like Jamal will be like he'll work with them, but they're gonna like it's gonna be Jokic scoring or Jokic passing most of the time.
Oh, I think we get a good KCP game, which is like not even a hot take because like he just was like out of literally playing outside of his body against the Lakers in the
Yeah.
conference finals. But I think we get another one because he's the guy. I'm like we mentioned it. That's a real personal matchup for him. So I think we get another just a scorcher from him.
Well, we will see what happens. Tell you what, let's take one more break. When we come back, we are going to do some more predictions for the rest of the NBA season, whether it's Nuggets related or NBA related. We'll have plenty of time to chat about that. But first, let's give this message from Good Morning Broncos. Good Morning Broncos on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. On the Mile High Sports YouTube channel. Make sure to go check them out. Cody Rourke does a fantastic job over there. His show is awesome when it comes to all Broncos content that you need. So make sure to go check out Good Morning Broncos. All right, back here with Matt Brooks. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, man. This has been fun, and it's going to get even more crazy now. Let's get bold. Let's get
Okay,
takey.
well,
Let's have some fun with this. I can start us off if you'd like, but I do think it's going to be fascinating to watch this season. I've got some things that I'm going to fire off here that
okay.
I don't know if I was going to save for. I didn't know if I was going to save for this pod or for a different pod, but I think I'll start firing them off here. If you like me to start, then I'll go.
Yes, go ahead. Well, I got some ready to go. I'm kind of queued up, so let's do
Okay.
it.
Actually, no. Let's go you then. Guest first. Guest first on something like this.
Should I go in Nuggets
Sure.
Are we going NBA or just like Nuggets?
Let's start Nuggets and then branch out.
It's not even a hot take. It's just I'm sitting on this idea, and I really want it to come to fruition because I want to write something about it. Uh, I think, well, first off, Nikola Jokic and Jamal are going to be even better this year, which is not like a huge hot take. Jamal's passing, just I've tweeted about it, I've written about it, I'm going to write more about it. I've asked about it in pressers. I think he's a top 15 assist guy this year. I think because he was 29th last year, I think he can get top 15. I think I
Big
really and
deal.
I think he can get there. I'm pretty high on this. And yeah, that's the big one I'm watching. And I just the leap he's made as a passer, just literally from the start of last year's postseason to the end to now. It's like his comfortability as especially it's the pocket passes now. He's just hitting Nicola every single time. And he's so smart about picking when to score and when to pass. The angles he's making these passes, like he's just I don't know. It's weird because I've only been here for like 6 months and I've noticed it, which to me tells me like, okay, this is something that's happening real time. There's other things I might miss out on because I don't have that backstory with the Nuggets. But to me, that's really jumped. So that's one of them. I think Nicola, it's funny, like we talk about how great of an offensive player he is. And I've like racked my brain, as many of us have, I think, to figure out how can this guy get better? Like, how does he even get better? And the last thing for me, and I think other people have said this as well, is just jacking up the 3-point attempts. I think you're looking at like he might more than double his 3-point attempts this year. He could be like around. I think what was he at last year? He's somewhere in the 2.5 ish range. Is that? I don't have
Yeah, I
basketball
think
reference.
that sounds like it was a little bit more than that, I want to say, but
Was it?
actually no, it wasn't. He was at 2.2 attempts per game. Good lord.
There
What
you
is he
go.
doing?
So he was at 3.9 the year before. Like I think we get a career high for him. Something about, and I asked Malone today about it, and he was like, yeah, like he's noticed it as well that the threes are he's just getting more threes up, and he kind of talked about the postseason, the three ball was so successful for Nicola. Um, I wonder if just like winning a championship, having the confidence of that, and your three ball being such a key factor of that, whether it was all the shots fittingly hit against the Lakers, but really, 3-pointers he hit all throughout. I wonder if that carries over. And that's like the last thing that he can do, not only to just bring up his points total, but also just, attract closeouts that are even more aggressive when he's on the perimeter. And then he can play make from there and do other things with this game. That's my big one. I think those guys are going to be even better together, but individually, we're going to see them also take those two aspects of their game up.
It's a good prediction. And for both of those guys, like I think it's reasonably attainable too. For Jamal's side of things, the top 20 or the 20th, like he ranked 21st actually in assists per game at
Did he?
6.2 this last year. So top 15 definitely attainable. He can definitely push it even higher.
Top 10.
Top 12 would mean, or basically top 13 means that he cracks 7 assists per game. You think he can get up to that threshold?
Yep.
I
I,
think so
I
too.
really think he's going to be like, how high would you go? Like, I could go up to like 7.5.
Ooh, so that's like
That's
Russell
hard.
Westbrook territory from last year and Drew Holiday territory, Damian Lillard. Actually, I mean, it's not that far off. Like
I think
he's
you get
probably
there,
not going to
man.
have the ball in his hands. Like it's just so hard to have two guys that average that many assists. Do you think the
Yeah.
Joker's assists go down as a result?
Yeah, probably right. That would have to at some
Maybe at
point. I
least
mean,
a
it
little
also
bit. Like
depends on like what they're staggered and you need your beds to make shots, right? Because if you're otherwise those just turn into potential assists. So
right.
uh, that I think is a factor. But yeah, I don't know. I think Joker's willingness to he just seems more aggressive as a scorer. Again, it's preseason, but like from what I heard from you guys, like he took one shot like the entire preseason last year.
That
So
was true.
this
It was
year shooting a lot. And yeah, I've been curious how that's such a symbiotic relationship. And it's very yin and yang. So one you pull on the lever one way, scoring is going to go up for the other. I'm wondering if it kind of goes the other way. So yeah, I'm curious
well,
about it.
they complete each other. That's probably the best way to describe it with whether it's the passing or the
Yeah,
scoring or the rebounding or the defending. Like they really do complete each other and kind of morph around what each other's doing at that time. So it's a good take. I think Joker's going to win MVP.
I love it.
Like I
I
know
love
he's
it.
the favorite right now, so that may not be a bold take, but if I had to bet on Jokic versus the field, I might bet on Jokic. I might bet on
I
him.
I have no disagreements, mostly because I don't know who else would win, for one. Uh,
It's
and
hard to
I
find the right candidate, right? Like,
it's just brutal.
yeah.
It's brutal. There's no narrative award. There's no.
The
I don't know
narrative
who would
might
have
be,
it.
"Hey, we're sorry we screwed this up, dude. Like,
Yeah,
let's make up for past wrongs."
and he won, which can many times carry into that next year of MVP. I think that's a pretty apt take. I guess the Luca, like we've been waiting on the Luca coronation, so they'd need to be like a top 3 seed because that feels
Not
like I think
even like
he's
I was actually so I just had this conversation on the alley oop with a special guest that I'm not gonna float
okay.
just yet. But like I just had this conversation, and I think Luka needs to get up to top 6. I think they need to be seen as a playoff
Okay.
team, avoiding the play-in, kinda like Denver did back in 2022, and that's what helped Joker kinda get that. The 1,500 was a big deal, but also just avoiding the play-in and avoiding kind of the stigma of that, saying like, "Hey, you were a legitimate playoff team this year, and that was a massive accomplishment for the roster that you had." If it's Luca and if he's kind of going the same direction, that wouldn't surprise me that much because I don't
Yeah.
think anybody's really picking them to be a top 6 team in the West right now.
Yeah, but if you have Kyrie on your roster and you're like a top 6 team, it's I feel like that's so much different than like the Westbrook year when he won MVP. They were, I think, a 6 seed,
Yeah.
and he had that huge years after Durant left. Um, that just feels different to me than like if Luca wins with Kyrie on the roster. Whether the roster and like I think there's pretty varying opinions of what they did this offseason.
Well,
But
they're
I
gonna start if they start 2 rookies, then I'm gonna disagree with you.
yeah. I guess. That was a surprise. Wow. I have expected many things in the preseason. When I saw the Derek Lively at center headline, I was like, that is I just didn't see that one coming. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
interesting to think about, but I mean, I think it's a battle between those 2 guys. I think Giannis has a case. I think
yeah.
Embiid's gonna have to, like, really jump through some hoops in order to actually be eligible for it this year.
Yep.
And then Steph is the other one that I think I'd mentioned,
Mhm.
but also Tatum. Like, that you could come up with a lot of good candidates. I'm not sure if you can come up with a great candidate, so that's why I just defaulted to Jokic.
SGA and Ant. Could you get into
SGA
that?
is a good one.
I
SGA
I
is
could
one
do that.
where, like, because they don't have this other consistent all-star around them, like, with Ant, I think you could at least make the argument that, hey, Cat bounced back. Rudy is still a former, like, multiple-time all-star. And, like, Ant will he's still got some efficiency issues and things
Yes.
like that of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
driving, winning, and whatnot. But with SGA, like, he was just first team All-NBA, just 5th in MVP voting. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the next step for him.
And he's an engine. And like the way he plays is really conducive to regular season basketball and that he's so good in transition. Um, he's just a guy that's gonna put up big scoring numbers through fouls, which is a big
Mhm.
aspect of it. Like he feels like a big numbers guy if they hit the way they can. And I think Chet's gonna produce pretty much immediately. Like he just feels ready. It's kind of like Simmons, I guess, after taking the gap year and then playing, or Blake Griffin
Yeah.
gap year playing. Um, the gap year can help a lot of guys because you just learn the game from the sidelines and get used to the travel and the kind of everything that comes with the NBA. But B, like he's just a guy that you're like, okay, this is the center of your defense, and he's just really skilled as an offensive player. That's all they need, and I think that pushes them up the standings. I'm pretty high on them as a lot of people are, and I think he's the guy I look at, and I'm like, that could be the guy that could be in the mix for sure.
Do you have any other, Nuggets specific predictions?
Oh goodness, I Nugget specific predictions. Let's see.
How about
Not
this one?
really,
How
not
about this
really.
one?
Do you have a rookie
If you
one?
if you had to pick a bench player right now that was in the playoff rotation outside of Christian Brown, who would you pick?
That's a tough one. I like Strother. I do. I just God, movement shooting is such a premium in today's NBA. And like you watch him play, and you see how he looks in summer league, and like he had good moments. He just kind of like the first two games, I don't know, he just wasn't making shots, and then the final three, I think he was kind of around what he's shooting or he shot in preseason. He shot the ball really well. Um, so, but you watch him play in the Nuggets system, you're like, oh, I get it. Like this guy can hit shots where his feet aren't set. He's like running full speed to a spot 28 feet away from the rim and he's turning and catching. And I'm just like, dude, like if you're on a team where guys are getting you the ball right where you want it, right in your shooting pocket, and you can shoot at angles where you're like falling over, like it's really hard for me to not see you thrive on this team. So Strother's a good one. And besides that, guys that I also like in the playoff rotation, I continue to like Holiday in a way. I think he feels pretty
Really?
Yeah, I just feel like they're gonna have one vet guy
Hmm.
in there, and I just
Well,
don't
they
know who else it
better
would
like they better
be.
find somebody. Some of these vets that like can do the stable stuff.
Yeah, he's the one I feel the most confident about of any of the vets personally. I think all of them are gonna play different roles at different times. Like Reggie's like a good scorer. I just like lineup optimization is always the thing I look at. They trend so small that that kind of limits you. And if you have Jamal playing with the bench guys, I don't quite know where Reggie fits in, right? Like that's kind of the tricky part. But yeah, I don't know. Like veteran wings, it just feels like there's going to be that one guy kind of in the rotation there, whether that's Justin or a different guy, I don't know. But that kind of it feels like there's going to be one of those guys in there.
They could definitely stagger Mike and AG to play the 4,
Yeah,
and that would help them out from a size perspective if you're trying to get into that bench unit and you're not really sure who to play. I'm gonna go with Zeke. I
yeah,
think he is the most straightforward through line for playing time with the bench. Like he's going to be the backup center. He's going to get consistent opportunities. They just locked into him for a contract. They want to make it work. And I think he's ready. I think he's time.
yep,
I think it's the right time for him. And he brings a skill set that the team needs, which is this defensive switchability, athleticism, big target for Jokic if they play together. And I think that they should play together. I think that's one of the things that if you could get Zeke to play a little bit as a 4 next to Nikola, and then have him play the 5 in lineups without Nikola, then automatically his value just increases because he's not purely a backup 5 or he's not purely a backup 4. Why not make them both? Why not allow him to do different things? And if you have a player that you feel confident can do that, like there's some value in that, especially for a team like Denver where Jeff Green filled that role last year. In lineups without Nikola, you could argue that he was the backup center. In lineups with Nikola, clearly the power forward and clearly like a complementary player. Make Zeke do that, give him reps at it, and try it. I think that that's the player that I'd go with in that regard.
I agree. I think like if you look at and they're going to lean into those lineups where one of AG, like last year was one of AG or Jeff at the 5, whoever you want to say. Um, if you do that this year with no Zeke, it's like you're putting Peyton or Justin Holiday at the 4 or 5, which is just kind of tricky and limits you a
Tough.
lot. So I do understand that. Yeah, I'm curious with him, just offense. I actually think he's like the coaching staff has talked a lot about dribble handoff stuff. He's looked pretty good in that. And if you look at this bench, that's where somebody like Julian Strother, if you're playing Zeke as your 4 or 5, that's where somebody movement shooter, whether it's Jamal or somebody like Zeke, makes a ton of sense because those guys are going to fly off handoffs and create stuff for you, and you can even run stuff from there, and those guys will feed Zeke. So I think there's ways to make it work. But yeah, the offense for me is just will be the biggest thing about him staying involved and contributing.
Let's do one more prediction before we get out of here. Um, do you want to do a national kind of NBA prediction? Like,
Yeah, I do.
what's the take that you're really sitting on right now with the rest of the NBA kind of watching and waiting for the Nuggets to go?
Lower on the Bucks.
Ooh,
I'm
wow.
pretty, yeah, which is spicy.
It is
And
spicy. I see them as like one of the 3 top teams.
a little bit, and I do too. I do too. I think their roadmap will matter a lot. They really need Brook to be good again. They really, really need Brook to produce again. He was like probably at his career year last year. Um, but that's one of their main four guys. And then, yeah, I mean, the 2-man game between Giannis and Dame is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say the spacing around that is maybe not as ridiculous. And there will be, when you get into key games, certain guys on that roster will be just left open or they will be dared to shoot. And that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, you watch the Nuggets, like the beauty is you're just like your weak side is okay, here's Michael Porter Jr. in the corner, who's the best unguarded shooter in the league. Oh, one pass away. There's KCP who's shooting 40% on catch and shoot. So it's a little bit different for the Bucks. I definitely have a couple more questions about them. Now, you look at them versus Boston, like they have a play that they're going to go to over and over, that 2-man game between Giannis and Dame. Boston's like, they're really good, and I think they're going to be good defensively. I don't know what the flow of their offense looks like, but I just like them more. I could be wrong, but God, there's just so much spacing, and maybe I'm falling for that, like the sexiness of spacing in the NBA. But I don't know. I definitely lean Boston a lot more than Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's roadmap will really, really matter depending on who they play in the playoffs.
It's a good take, and it is a fair take. And anybody that says it's unfair is like just missing the fact that guys like Pat Connaughton and Marjon Beauchamp and Malik Beasley are going to have a lot of pressure put on them, especially if Chris Middleton doesn't stay healthy, because that's one of those where like, you need him to be that guy. You need him to be that consistent third option, because Brook is not going to be that. I don't think. I think he's a little bit too old for that. And also, there's the fact that if teams just outshoot them, which is possible, and they have to have Giannis and Brook on the floor because those are their two best like guys in the front court, and they don't have a lot of depth behind. Like Bobby Portis is one option, but hey, you can outshoot Bobby Portis, you can outplay Bobby Portis, and then the team with that guy in the rotation. So there's a reason to believe, but kind of like the Nuggets, like it's just about kind of piecing together the situations and the solutions, and
for sure
they have 82 games to be able to figure it out, including a trade deadline.
And they have an aggressive front office that has made trades before at the trade deadline, which I think is really important. They made that PJ Tucker trade. That was like a huge trade for them. So I think that's a front office that will do that thing. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing like with them is their defense, I think presumably will slip a little bit. So you're going to need to make that up for an offense. And then if you're in shootouts and your shooters aren't making shots, you can see where this can go.
To be fair, they have a shooter that can make 10 threes.
Oh, yeah, which is great.
He'll help them. Yeah, he might just like paper over all of this, and we'll just have to figure that out.
Silly.
My hot take is that Zion gets traded at the deadline.
Oh, I like that. Oh man, I like that. There's going to be one big trade, by the way. It's like an Embiid, Luka.
No, they're going to wait a year. He's going to hold on to Cuban will hold on to Luka until like he's dead. Like
so will Daryl. Will Daryl Morey. Yeah.
But will David Griffin? No, not with Zion. Not in my opinion.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah,
that is a bold prediction.
Well, because Ingram and Zion, we haven't ever seen the fit for a long period of time, and the best moments that the Pelicans have had is when one of those two guys are playing and not both. And to me, that you've got Trey Murphy there, you've got CJ McCollum there, you've got some other good depth pieces there, like players that I like. The problem is that Zion is you want to be able to commit around him, but he is not good enough and not healthy enough to commit around consistently. And you need other options, but the other options don't fit perfectly. So you need to trade somebody, because right now I don't see them winning above 40 to 42 games ever. And that's a problem. That's just an issue. So
the thing, he's so good when he's on the floor.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I will say. And if they just, I don't feel like that team is fully optimized for Zion in that, it's like they forget. It's weird. Sometimes I watch them, I'm like, I feel like we forgot to put the ball in his hands. Whenever they just do the point Zion thing, it's like, I don't know what you do about this. Like, it doesn't
Weird,
matter.
pretty good. Pretty good
It's
when you do that. You should do that
crazy.
more. Like,
Yeah.
seems like a good idea. They
Their
they
team
definitely
is
go through
hard.
some of those issues for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. Do you have a Clippers take? This is a really weird one, and then I'll let you get going.
um, I think that the Harden trade helps them. I was talking to Robert
Me
Plum
too.
for the Clippers preview, and he
Enjoyed
thinks
that.
that he's a good dude, and he thinks that it helps, but it doesn't help them against Denver. And I tend to agree that like if they were to trade for Harden, they already should have traded for him. If we're being honest, them poo pooing the idea of trading for Harden is really dumb. like,
Yeah.
oh, Terrence Mann and 2 firsts is a little rich for our blood. So I don't know about that. They should probably come to some sort of solution. Um, and Daryl Morey should like, not be Daryl Morey for once. But once that happens and that trade actually does go through in like November, then I think that they will be good. I think that there will be a lot of people that call them a surprise contender, that call
Yep.
them a championship kind of
Yeah.
contender, and then they'll win a playoff series, and then they will flutter out because of injuries or the fact that it's James Harden or the fact that other teams are just better.
I like it. I really wanted you to be like they're in the play-in or like
Oh, they are now. Like
or
if we're
they're
being honest, like they are
yeah,
now. Like
yeah, yeah.
this is not a great team. This is a okay to good team right now. And that's a
Like have
problem.
circled.
Like they need too much to go their way in order to actually win a championship. And that's just I just don't see it. I don't see it ever happening with them until they trade Kawhi.
Yeah, they feel like if you had to look at a couple teams that you have penciled in as like teams that could fall out of the playoffs, they'd be my number one. But I also kind of I like Harden. I enjoy like I just think he helps winning and like let's be honest, like I think their window's pretty getting pretty close to close. So that feels pretty obvious to make that trade. He just like helps you in the regular season. Even now, like on
Yeah.
the final years of his career, if they make that trade,
Isn't
like I can't
isn't
be
that what
too
they
low on
need
them.
too? Like they need to keep their other
Yeah,
guys healthy. So go get somebody that excels during the regular season so that your guys can excel in the playoffs. Like it should
yeah,
be a pretty reasonable thing for them to do. And they're probably waiting for Philly to get more desperate. Like Daryl Morey's never gonna like he's not
no,
gonna do it. Like he's just not. Like he's gonna sit on his price and he's never gonna lose a trade because he's arrogant and that's fine. That's fine. Like that's just who he is. And that's how a lot of these GMs operate. So look, we'll see what happens, but I do have to run. Matt, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Where can the people find your work?
yeah. Go to nuggets.com. Everything is there. We've been doing a lot of like video breakdown stuff on our YouTube channel, so definitely go subscribe there. And then if you want to see 30 clips during a game that are being tweeted out faster than I can think, you can do that on my Twitter account, Matt Brooks NBA. I'll be doing that all year long, threading games and tweeting quotes like the rest of us. Yeah, so those are the three places you should check out if you're interested in my work.
I'm most jealous of the access to clips. That's the one thing
It
that
is
I'm like,
life
man,
changing. Life
yeah,
changing, my friend. Did not have that in Brooklyn. Life changing. I love
yeah,
it.
that's really cool. That's it's
Pretty good.
really
It's a
nice.
perk.
Gonna have
It's a
to
perk.
like probably auction off a baby somewhere in order to actually get access to those clips. That seems like a good idea. Um, so, uh, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate it. Everybody else, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Always back on. We'll be back tomorrow night, I guess. Like we're going to talk about this game. It'll be we'll go live too. I'm going to go live after this game, and it's going to be a nightmare of a day, but we're going to have a great time doing it. So thank you so much, everybody. Talk to you guys very soon.